You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Hey guys, Keith Angle, TGI Sports Talk, College Football Huddle. How are you guys tonight? I am so excited. The real college football season is here. We did kick it off last week. We'll talk a little bit about those games. Sorry for being a few minutes late tonight. I did have a little something pop up at the last second. I was about to go live, and I had a very important call I had to take. So, again, I apologize for that, but here we are. I hope you guys are excited as I am about the college football season. I just closed a couple of windows I did not want to close on my computer, so I hope I don't miss anything I wanted to chat about. We're going to try to cover a lot of ground tonight. And I want you to comment if you feel the need, and please do so throughout these shows as we go forward into this exciting college football season. A couple quick announcements. Friday on my interview show, I'll have Jim Jeffcoat, former Dallas Cowboy, two-time Super Bowl champion, and soon to be part of the Northeast Streaming Sports Network here with shows like TGI Sports Talk Huddle and many, many others. He'll be on a show with Byron Williams called J&B Talking Shop. It'll be on the YouTube channel for Northeast Streaming Sports starting, I believe, September 1st. We'll talk to Jim about that and more. You know about this show, obviously. And also, if you're a fan of our Sunday Stream of Consciousness show, please tune in there. We'll continue to talk college football. We cover all the sports on Sundays. But join our Pro Football Pick'em League, the winner this year, as long as you're a follower and share. Rick Sherlock's ready for the football season. Biggest game of the weekend. We'll be getting to it for sure. Join the TGI Sports Talk Pick'em League, and you will be in line. If you win this season, crowned to get a $100 Amazon gift card. Hope you'll join us. We had a lot of fun last year, and to save some time on the show, I decided to do it a real Pick'em League, and you can find the link to that on the TGI Sports Talk page. Okay, guys, let's dive into it. Gosh, there's so much going on. Let's talk about a couple of pieces of news so far coming up or that have come up recently before we jump into it. Big story out of Texas Tech. Jimbo Fisher getting a 4-year contract extension that raises his salary to $9 million annually. Now, Jimbo Fisher is a great college football coach, and Texas A&M is positioned to really make a move this year. And this is really a vote of confidence for Jimbo Fisher. He's won a national title at Florida State. And when they lured him away with a huge 10-year, $75 million contract, that was a big deal. Now, he's done okay. He's 26-10 over the 3 seasons he's been at A&M. Really close to making a playoff last year. They were an Alabama loss away from undefeated season. But this is really a vote of confidence and on Texas A&M's part to extend that even longer and for more money. So congratulations to Jimbo Fisher. If you're of a want to congratulate people for huge raises. LSU avoided any issues, serious issues with Hurricane Ida this weekend. All of their football players and coaches and families are safe. They'd moved everybody away from the campus and whatnot. And they are heading out to UCLA. I'll be talking more about that game. It's going to be one of my picks for this week. There's a team I like a lot in that game. What else did I want to talk about? How about, this whole NIL thing? The Ohio State quarterback, Quinn Ewers, he's incoming, right? He's not on the team. He's not even enrolled in school yet. And he signed an NIL for $1.4 million with JT Sports Marketing. I am still unsure whether this is really a good idea, bad idea. Gosh. I wish I could get on one side of this or the other, because I see the plus side to some kids being able to make some money off after the NCAA's made billions of dollars off these kids' backs for decades. Most of these kids are not going to go on to lucrative pro careers, but are the kids that aren't going on to lucrative pro careers going to get this NIL money? I don't know. But it may allow some of the, but you can't use it technically as a recruiting tool, but I know these schools are doing it. They're going to do it. That's just what they do. And maybe it can level the playing field. And some of these teams that aren't in Power 5 conferences, soon to be Power 4 conferences, Big 12. That's another topic altogether. We'll see what's going to happen there, but it does worry me a little bit. This is a pretty slippery slope, guys, and I'm a little concerned. I mean, you got kids sitting out. This kid's sitting out his senior year of high school. He's not playing. That can't be good for your development, at 17, 18 years old to sit out a season. Just my thoughts there. One other story I want to talk about quickly. Bobby Bowden, as we know, passed away a month ago. And FSU, Florida State University, will honor Bobby Bowden with his signature on their helmets and a logo on the field. And hello, Mickey Delaney. Good to see you tonight, by the way. Again, hello to Rick. I'll give you another shout out there, Rick. Rick's going to be excited. Big Georgia fan. Classy move again, probably a no-brainer, but classy move by Florida State, honoring Bobby Bowden, who, again, really built that program from scratch, starting in the early 70s. So great job there by Florida State, and I'm glad to see Bobby Bowden get his due. Now, if you're a Florida fan, you may not think the same thing. Who knows? They open up with Notre Dame this weekend, too, by the way. Interesting game. I know Notre Dame's a 7-point favorite, I think, on the road. Florida State's got to get better at some point here, guys. Anyway, let's jump into some games. Let's talk into some other. There's a couple things. As we go through here, I'm going to probably jump around a little bit. I'm going to go through the games, and I'm going to give you some picks. I do want to get through all my picks. I really haven't done the whole every league and pick a winner. And I definitely want to do that. My notes on such are gone. So this last minute phone call kind of threw me into a tizzy, but we'll work through it. We can do it. Let's look at last week's games, by the way, real quick. Last Saturday, there was 5 FBS 1A, games. I gave you the winner on Illinois and Nebraska. Nebraska was a 7-point favorite on the road. Nebraska is a mess. Scott Frost is going to be in trouble there. They lose at Illinois, which is not a great program. Brett Bielema is back in the Big Ten after great success at Wisconsin and not so much success at Arkansas. A good start for Illinois. Again, you win a league game this early in the season, get off to a good start, can't help but be good. Bad news for Nebraska, though. Nebraska, the culture there is just shot. Since they moved to the Big Ten, they really have not been relevant, and they need to make a move here. Scott Frost is probably not going, even though he's a teammate, I believe, of Trev Albert, the new AD. I don't know that he's going to be able to continue on as the coach there, and they need to make a move. I don't know that I don't think this is a job where they can get a big name anymore. Let's see what Carlos has got here. I'll jump on your comment in a second, Carlos. I don't know that this is a big name job anymore. They need to bring a no name, not necessarily a no name, but they need to bring a Matt Campbell type in. Matt Campbell's not taking a Nebraska job, leaving Iowa State. He's going to get a better job at some point, either in the pros or in college, but he's not leaving Iowa State for Nebraska. but they need a Matt Campbell type, a Kurt Ferenc type to build a culture or start to build a culture and then bring in guys that fit that culture. And they really need, he was the best guy maybe at the time, Carlos, but it's not working out. He just has not had the success, and nobody has. And again, I'm not saying it's Scott Frost's fault. No, Nebraska needs to change their whole outlook and their whole approach, I think, to their program. He got this mess going, and the COVID did not help. I understand. I get it. But, we're 3 years into this now. And they're no better than they were. You can't go to Illinois and lose if you're Nebraska. You just can't do it. Thank you from our leaders at Northeast Streaming Sports. Great to see you with us tonight. As we said, we will have Jim Jeffcoat on Friday, as we were talking about. So thank you for checking in. Can't wait to have Jim on, by the way. We'll talk about his college days a little bit, probably, too. So anyway, let's see what Carlos got something else here that he wanted to chat about. How will this season treat Indiana and Penn State? The polls, these polls are terrible. You can't trust preseason polls. The very first show here we did, I went through the top 25 for the AP only because it feels obligatory, right? But I've talked about on this show, I've talked about when I'm on with Mac and Jack on Fridays. How do you have a poll before the season even starts and the teams haven't played a game? How do I know? I know Alabama's going to be one of the best teams in the country, most likely. But how do I know that, Indiana's 16 or Indiana's 6 or Indiana's 46? I don't know. There's no way to know. These teams, everything's in flux too much with these schools, unless you're Alabama, Clemson. And even then, you're going to be wrong. You're going to rank some of these guys every year. There's going to be guys ranked in the top 10 who don't finish in the top 25. There's going to be guys that who are not ranked in the top 25 to start, and they're going to end up in near or in the top 10. So the polls early on, Carlos, are they are useless. I agree. Now, as far as Indiana goes, I think Indiana's going to still be competitive. Do I think they'll do as well as they did last year, where they really only had a tough loss to Ohio State? I don't know. I think they could take a step back. Remember, this is Indiana we're talking about, right? Not Ohio State, not Alabama, not Clemson. This team, wins, 8 or 9 games. That's a good season. With Michael Penix coming back, I think they'll do well. I'm not as high on Penn State. Not as high in Penn State, to use Carlos' other example. James Franklin's a great coach. But last year was so bad, and they had so many holes to fill in. Again, COVID, it's impossible to say who is as bad or who is as good, or were they really as bad or were they really as good as they showed last year in some cases because of the circumstances that were just unavoidable. So I'm thinking Penn State, and I talked about my Big Ten picks last week. And since you're on it, Carlos, I will go back to the Big Ten a little bit. I really believe that let me just pull up that league a little bit. Here's what I picked. Hope I picked the same teams. In that Eastern Division where Indiana plays and Penn State plays, Ohio State's going to win. They're going to win. They're too talented. They can replace their quarterback easy enough and win. I think Indiana will finish second. I think Maryland might finish third or fourth. Maryland's going to surprise this year, I think, with another Tua at quarterback. Big disappointment's going to be Michigan. I think Michigan's in big trouble. I think Jim Harbaugh's on his way out. Transfer students will boost Penn State's team. I agree. The whole portal conversation, that whole thing now, it really throws everything into flux in college football because you can, outside of just recruiting, you can go out and get guys. You get fifth-year seniors, and this year you can get 6 and 7-year seniors because guys did not have to get penalized for a year of eligibility last year. But the whole transfer portal, it's thrown things into chaos. I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest with you. Kids not having to sit out a year. I mean, I get the argument. Why do kids have to sit out when coaches leave and they don't have to sit out a year? I get all that. But again, it's another thing that kind of leaves it in the flux. So I think Penn State will finish, I think Penn State will fight for the 3rd or 4th spot in that Eastern division. And in the Western division, I like Iowa and I like Minnesota to finish 1 and 2 there. And I like Nebraska to finish at the bottom. And Scott Frost is probably going to lose his job. I know it's not his fault, Carlos, but I think it's unavoidable that he doesn't lose his job here. And some other games last week, and we'll jump around and we'll talk about some situations. So as we talk about the games from last week, every week we do this. We'll review some of the big games from the week before. Not that there was a lot of big games last week, but there's a couple interesting ones. And we start talking about the big games of the upcoming week. Just jump. You got a topic, bring it up. It's like our stream of consciousness on Sundays. This will be our stream of consciousness, but it'll be college centric. So anyway, the other marquee game, if you will, was Iowa. Hawaii can't be further away from Iowa, can it? I mean, as far as I know distance wise it can be, but just as far as culture. Hawaii visited UCLA. I liked UCLA a lot. I like UCLA again this week, by the way, against LSU. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think this big UCLA victory against Hawaii was a fluke. Hawaii doesn't travel that great. They don't play that well on the road anyway. But I think UCLA is ready to make a move under Chip Kelly. Rick Sherlock's got a comment about Harbaugh. Harbaugh can take the Cowboy job when they fire their coach. You know what? I would. You could be joking, Rick. I'm not sure, but it's not that far-fetched to think that Jim Harbaugh. I mean, his stock has fallen a bit, obviously, with what's going on at Michigan. But outside of last year, I mean, it isn't like he's fallen completely on his face. I mean, he's averaged 9 wins a year. Always gone to bowl games. Last year was horrible. And this year could be as well. But I do think that Jim Harbaugh would be sought after by NFL coaches. And it might be that he's a better fit there now. And the Cowboys have hired worse coaches. In fact, they probably have one worse than Jim Harbaugh right now. So that could happen. I try to get my banners changed, and guys, I just can't keep up with changing it. So anyway, week 0, we're still talking about week 0 games. Chip Kelly's UCLA Bruins look great, 44-10. I really think that they're going to step it up a little bit here this year, and the Pac-12 is wide open in my mind. Let's take a quick look at that league if you want while we're talking about this, and I will give you my selections there. Pac-12, North Division. The winner, the Washington Huskies. You're welcome, Mickey. Got a couple more comments here. Let's see what we got. Oh, sorry. I guess I wanted the kudos again, so I put that one up again. Hawaii wasn't ready. Hawaii's never ready to travel on the road, but still. One thing you got to remember, Carlos, you need to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. They're supposed to beat this team. They're supposed to beat this team up, and they did so. That's the mark of a good team. You can't fault them for beating the teams on their schedule. These points by Utah and Jackson State do not define these teams. I don't necessarily disagree. I was going to get into the Pac-12. I'll go back to it, and we stick with Carlos's comments for a second. No, UTEP, do I think they're going to be a great team? No. Conference USA, I believe they're playing, and I don't think they're going to be a great team. Jackson State, interesting story with Deion Sanders as the head coach. gets them a lot of pub. But again, I don't think they're going to necessarily be taking a big step up. And since we're just to finish up on the games from last week, San Jose State, nice victory. San Jose State, one of the great stories from last year. Now they're only playing Southern Utah, who's not even Division 1A. But 45-14 victory, nice win, and a nice start for San Jose State to see if they can continue what they were doing last year. Let's go back to the Pac-12 real quick. Which team I'll let Carlos, you can tell me which team will rebound when I get through here with the Pac-12. I'll just jump on this real quick. So in the North, you're welcome, Mickey. I picked the Washington Huskies to finish first. I think the Cal Bears are going to surprise and compete with Oregon for that second spot in that division. Stanford, after a real down year last year and a couple of down years, they've got a great coach. I'm surprised he hasn't made the jump to the pros, but they've been down the last couple of years, and I really think they're going to struggle to maintain anything there. I also don't think the Washington State Cougars, are going to make any moves, or Oregon State. I mean, Washington State's basically playing in Idaho, aren't they? I mean, aren't they that far east? And in the South, I'm going to tell you, I like UCLA. I did like Arizona State with Herm Edwards, but I don't like all the stuff that's going on over there. I just don't. Too many things going on are in the peripheral. I think they're going to struggle. So I like UCLA and USC and maybe even Utah to battle it out for the top spot. And I like UCLA to be playing in the championship game against the Washington Huskies. Carlos didn't get me his team that it's going to bounce back. Maybe he's talking about Hawaii. No Cougars, 1 or UW2. No, I got Washington winning the North Division. I do not have the Washington State Cougars finishing anywhere near the top, though. What else, guys? What else? Let's run down these conferences real quick before we jump into this week's games. I'm going to start with my favorite conference, the AAC. Cincinnati's a class of that league. They're very good last year. A lot of guys coming back on both sides of the football. Hawaii will rebound. You know, Hawaii's always an interesting team. They score a lot of points. Tough home field advantage too when teams got to fly out there, but they don't play well on the road. Had one great year a few years ago. And if I'm not mistaken, their quarterback from that team may have tragically passed here recently. The name's kind of Brennan. The name's kind of bouncing around in my head, and the story's kind of bouncing around in my head. So I probably shouldn't dive into it if I don't know what I'm talking about, right? Cincinnati, I like in the AA. If you guys watch my shows, you know I love the AAC. The AAC is this close to being on a Power 5 level, and I know some of you guys are going to laugh at me. But if more realignment comes and they take in a couple of these Big 12 teams that are left over, the Oklahoma States, the TCUs, the Iowa States, watch out. Cincinnati's already at a Power 5 level in my mind. And they got some teams that often play really good football and can play with the big boys. UCF, they're going to battle Cincinnati. They'll probably play in the championship game against Cincinnati. Great move in hiring Gus Malzahn, who struggled at Auburn, but he'll do very well at UCF. Great culture there. And that school is putting a ton of money into the facilities, to the football program in general. This is a sleeping giant, guys. And if the AAC does not make the next move to the next level by getting better teams, you may see UCF get sucked up by one of the Power 5 conferences and get a chance to play on a bigger stage themselves. Navy's a danger to bounce back, always competitive. Who else? Houston's always competitive. They haven't been the last couple of years. Memphis, really good team. Don't sleep on Memphis or SMU in that league. They can beat anybody on any given Saturday or Thursday or Wednesday or whatever day we're playing. Who else? That you don't know. Then that's always a league that has somebody come out of it really quickly. We've already talked about the ACC a lot on this show, so I'm not going to dive into it too much. Again, I do think Clemson will win the Atlantic. And I'm going to pick my Miami Hurricanes to come out of the Central. Everybody loves North Carolina, but I like Miami. And I like the De'Aaron King coming back this year. They've got a couple of portal transfers at wide receiver and a couple of defensive spots. So they've increased their team speed. And if they're going to, if my Alabama's beatable, to talk about one of the games this weekend, one of the marquee games this weekend, Alabama and Miami. I believe they're playing on a neutral field. Let's see, does this show me where they're playing? Don't know if it does. Oh, maybe it does. Hold on. 3:30. Where are you? 3:30. I know you're playing. Bear with me a minute, guys, while I try to find Alabama. They're playing Atlanta. So it is a neutral field. Probably going to be more Alabama fans there than Miami fans. We'll see how well they travel. Carlos going all the way to Middle Tennessee State. You know what? You know what's fun about college football, Carlos, and everybody else, and why I love it so much, is that a Middle Tennessee State can come out of nowhere and be relevant. That's why I want to see this team. The 12-team playoff can't come soon enough for me. I really want to see them go to 16. But a 16-team playoff, a Middle Tennessee is going to have a chance to be in it. I mean, they're going to come out. That Conference USA is, again, it's an underrated conference. There's always going to be a good team in it. And last year you saw teams like Liberty. You saw teams like Coastal Carolina come out of nowhere to become really good football teams and big stories in college football. Yeah, they play. Do they open up with Virginia Tech this weekend? I'm going to go through the games real quick in a minute, Carlos. Hopefully, I can get through them all. I think all 130 teams are playing this week. I was like, there's no effing surprise. Miami. I started to talk about Miami and Alabama. I'm not telling you Miami's as good as Alabama. First of all, as Carlos said, we don't know yet. Most teams lose their starting quarterback, 2 starting wideouts, their number 1 running back, a bunch of guys on the offensive line, a bunch of guys on the defense, and it's going to take them a year or 2 to get back. Not Alabama, they just reload. But if you're going to catch a team like that, week 1's a great place to do it. You're not going to get them probably in week 6 or 7. You're not beating them. They're going to be back at full stride, and that's when you're going to get them. Oh, next week. Okay. Middle Tennessee and VTech. Be fun. Let's mark that down, Carlos. Already won 1 wager against you. Maybe we'll come up with a college. We got to once we start having some conversations here, Carlos, and we see where we really butt heads. We'll see where we can put a little wager out there again. We'll talk about Cam here because this is a college show. But you know what? Conference USA. I'm excited about a possible guys. I don't know why we got to stop at 12. 16 teams. Every conference champion gets in, and you still got, I think, 4 at-large teams. Works fine. So Atlantic Coast we covered. Big 12. I haven't really talked a lot about the Big 12. We all know about the problems with the realignment, Oklahoma and Texas leaving. It's going to be, some of those games are going to get kind of ugly probably this year. That's what happens. I remember when the Big East broke up and Syracuse was leaving. Actually, before Syracuse left, and BC was leaving. A friend of mine's son played at BC. We used to go to all the games, and I can remember a Syracuse crowd that was really, really ugly because BC was leaving for the ACC the next year. Ironically enough, Syracuse is there now. But it won't be pretty in some of these stadiums, you know. As far as the league itself, I'm going to pick an upset here. I like Iowa State. I love Matt Campbell, great coach. And I think they will get over the hump. If they don't beat Oklahoma in the regular season, I think they'll get a rematch with them in a conference championship game and beat them there. You know, the other teams to watch there, obviously, and I love Rattler, the quarterback from Oklahoma, but Iowa State's got some pretty good players of their own. And I think the best coach in the conference. Sorry, Lincoln Riley. Sorry, Steve Scarsazian. I think it's Matt Campbell. TCU, I expect to bounce back this year and be respectable with Gary Patterson. There's a guy you might think about for Nebraska, Gary Patterson. Oklahoma State will be better. Well, there we go. There's our first headbutt. Oklahoma State will be improved. I mean, last year, it's funny. They're known for their offense. They're known for their offense and Mike Gundy's I don't have hair. What do you call that thing? Mullet. Last year, they were winning games with defense early on, and then their season fell apart a bit near the end. But they're always a good football team. And I would expect them to the best show sweeping. Mark Mancini from Mancini Media. Awesome to have you with us, Mark. We're going to get Mark on here a couple of times here during the college football season on Wednesday nights. Mark joins me every Sunday at 10:30 on our Stream of Consciousness show. Mark also likes to call it, what do you call it, Mark? The grind. Oh my gosh. Anyway, where were we, Carlos? I was arguing with you about Oklahoma State and Iowa State. I just think Iowa State's got better athletes on both sides of the ball, deeper. Oklahoma State's not going to play as good a defense as they played last year. And I do like Oklahoma State to be competitive here. Don't get me wrong. Good football team. Kansas State's going to have some troubles, I think, keeping up. They started off with it decently last year, but they fell apart. Texas Tech's going to continue to have trouble. West Virginia's got 1 foot out the door. If Oklahoma State don't win, that coach is toast. He's been there a long time. I would think, and I'd have to look this up, but I'd be shocked if Mike Gundy wasn't the longest tenured coach in the Big 12. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. Tomorrow I'll be on left turn at Alcatraz again tomorrow for the third or fourth week in a row. I don't know. My head spins. I don't really remember usually the week before when I get there. I love being on with those guys. So a lot of fun. Thank you, Mark, for having me on there. God, and I never know where the conversation's going to go. Where was I? Big Ten we talked about. Conference USA. Let's talk about Conference USA for Carlos. He's going to pick Middle Tennessee, I'm going to guess, here in the East. I guess I will not argue with him here. Although I think, Marshall, I think with a new coach might make some noise in that conference. UTEP off to a good start. I like Louisiana Tech Bulldogs probably in the West here, and we'll see we can root for a Middle Tennessee and Louisiana Tech playoff. We'll go. Well, let's look at the Independent. The Independents will come back to. Remind me to come back to the Independents. The Mid-American Conference. Akron, who I like a lot, has got a new head coach. As you know, Frank Zolich retired this year. Longtime head coach, put Akron back on the map. No, that's not Akron. That's Ohio U. Okay. Anyway, put Ohio back on the map. That's what I meant to say. One's on the top, one's on the bottom of my list here. But he's gone, and Ohio, whether they're going to do well is remains to be seen. Buffalo with a great year last year, but lost their terrific running back last year. Buffalo is going to be interesting to see if they can maintain that type of keep the momentum going with that program. I'm going to take Ohio to win this Eastern Conference. And in the South, I'm going to take, Ball State. Ball State's got a really good team. They played really well last year as well. Where are we here? Glad I could stop by getting ready for Patty Blyleven's show. She says, hi, Patty. How are you? Tell her I said hi tonight. Akron, maybe. That's another league that's wide open, when you look at this Mid-American Conference. The team that I like to come out of there winning it and winning the conference championship will be Ball State. The Mountain West, always kind of interesting. You got Boise State, obviously, with a new head coach. As their coach has moved out, their former coach has moved on to Auburn, and that huge challenge there, as we talked about with our coaching carousel a few weeks ago. I would expect Boise State to be really competitive in that Mountain Division. Air Force, I expect to bounce back, but I'm going to pick Boise State just because they're the chalk. Fresno State's really good, by the way, guys. They killed UConn, who stinks, by the way. But Fresno State's got a really good team. San Jose State, as I said last week, really was a big story last year as well. So I think you're going to see a battle between Fresno State and San Jose State. And I think you will see Fresno State come out on top here. Hawaii, as Carlos said, may be a sleeper here. Who knows? We'll see. Yeah, Ohio's a better pick in that Mid-American, correct. Pac-12, we've already talked about. Southeastern Conference, I'm not sure if we talked about this that much or not. I'm going to take Georgia. I am going to take Georgia to win that Eastern Conference by a nose over Florida. But Florida finds a way to – they got the talent, but they never get over the top. If there's a sleeper there, be careful about Kentucky. Kentucky's always finding a way to put a competitive team on the field. And the big story, one of the big stories here in this division, in this conference, is South Carolina. I probably can't give you his name right now. Let me see if it's see if it comes up here. South Carolina has got a graduate assistant they hired this year that's going to be their starting quarterback after some injuries. So it's very interesting. Let's see if I can find it here. Here it is, right here. Zeb Noland, who's kicked around a little bit at where else did he play? Eastern. He played. No, he didn't play there. Where did he play? Oh gosh, come on, give me this. Give me. There we go. North Dakota State. I thought he played somewhere else too. But anyway, he's got a year of eligibility left, and all of a sudden the coach says, Coach Beamer says, put on the pads, throw some balls. And all of a sudden he is the starting quarterback for South Carolina. Tennessee will be the black horse. And the dark horse, but I get what you mean, Carlos. Sorry. Caught me funny. I don't know why black horse caught me so funny. Oh, yes. Where are we going from here? So anyway, I said Georgia over Florida. Watch out for Kentucky. In the West, Alabama's going to win. I don't think LSU is going to be that good. Texas A&M is going to give Alabama a run for their money. I still think Alabama will win this conference. Watch out for Ole Miss, though, guys. Ole Miss, if they play any defense, they're going to scare every team they play if they play any defense at all. Lane Kiffin has got some guys that can go up and down the field. Good evening, Dave Guyette. Back to Carlos's comment about Tennessee. I can see them being a dark horse or a black horse in this case. They got a new head coach in Josh Heupel, who had a really good run at Central Florida, although they got progressively worse, actually, as he was there. Not necessarily his fault. But Heupel was a good, and he's, again, another national championship winning quarterback from Oklahoma. So we'll see if he can inject some light into that team that Jeremy Pruitt could not. And as far as LSU, I don't like LSU. I got to be honest with you. Ed Orgeron is a good guy. I think Ed Orgeron caught lightning in a bottle for a year and a half, and especially the year where they won the national championship. And he had Joe Burrow, and he had DeMarcus Chase, the wide receiver. And I think he caught lightning in a bottle, and I just don't think he's going to repeat it. I just do not think he's going to repeat it. Nice guy, and there's still some stuff floating around that program too, outside of the off the football field. Mississippi State is a Vegas trap. Yeah, you know what? You saw what happened last year. I asked Larry Sorensen. Shane Matthews, former quarterback from Florida. He's got his own podcast, Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning. Former two-time SEC player of the year, Steve Spurrier's first quarterback at Florida. I asked him about whether Mike Leach's system will work in the SEC. And he thinks it will eventually, but I think he needs players. He needs more players. So, again, you saw what happened last year when they I'm trying to remember who they played the first. Oh, LSU, right? I think it was LSU. They played the very first week and killed them. And their quarterback threw for 7 touchdowns. He threw for 800 yards. I'm making it up, but I don't think the kid was starting by the end of the year, and they came back to the pack. So, I mean, Mike Leach is a great coach. Weird guy, but a great coach, and I think he'll probably get it back together. The Sun Belt, I like Appalachian State. Miami's got to play their real home opener in a couple of weeks against Appalachian State. That's a trap game to watch out for, too, I'm afraid. I got to be very careful there. And, of course, you got Coastal Carolina, who's ranked in the top 25, for whatever that's worth, Carlos. As you said, again, preseason rankings, what's the point? If it's up to me, you'd play at least 2 games before you came out with any rankings. So, anyway, in the East there, it's going to be a battle between Coastal Carolina and Appalachian State. I'm going to take Appalachian State to get back on top there. And the Louisiana Raging Cajuns I like a lot in the West. I think they'll win this league. And Texas better be careful this week. Let's just talk about a couple of the independents because there's some interesting stuff here. Are independents going to be able to survive? I don't know. In the new landscape that's to come. But you got Notre Dame, obviously. But I think Notre Dame is going to have trouble. They got too many people to replace. Mostly, in my mind, Ian Book, who was tremendously underrated as a college quarterback. And I think they're going to have a hard time living up to their number 9 ranking, at least via ESPN. And I think they're going to finish. They should finish in the top 25, but I don't see them getting to a major bowl game this year. I really don't. I think BYU takes a step back this year. I think a lot of what they did last year was with smoke and mirrors. These independents always find a home in a league. They'll have to. Notre Dame can survive because of their TV contract, but even they may have to find a league at some point, depending on what happens with the rest of this realignment, right? BYU, again, Liberty. Liberty's going to need to find a home, or they're not going to be able to schedule guys. I would think Liberty might be able to maintain their success from last year, possibly get ranked in the top 25 again before the season's out. Army's been very, very tough. What a great job. God, their coach's name is escaping me. What's his name? Help me out. Help me out. Somebody's going to help me out. You know, he almost got the South Carolina job this year. And Army head. You don't want to see what just came up. Jeff Monken. Oh, gosh. Great coach. He's had some great seasons. I'll tell you what. Let me, Anthony, hang in there a second, and welcome to the show, Anthony. Thanks for coming by. Let me just take a real quick gander by the rest of the. Is there anybody else I want to talk about on the independents? I don't think so. Army, again, sleeper. Watch out. Nobody wants to play Army. The rest of these teams probably, I mean, there's only 6, 7 independent teams left. There used to be 20-some. Here's my Heisman pick. Anthony Price wants to know my Heisman pick. There's some candidates out there that are going to be really, really, really good. I already mentioned how much I like Shane Rattler. Don't think he wins. DJU, will call him from Clemson because I'll never be able to say his last name. He'll be a contender. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, the newcomers at Ohio State and Alabama, they'll be contenders. Rick Sherlock's guy, JT Daniels, played great the end of the season. 10 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. He only started a couple of games, I think, at the end of the season, right? Slovis from USC. It'll be a quarterback, but it's not going to be any of those. My pick is going to be Sam Howell from North Carolina. Yeah, Tua's brother. I can't. Somebody's got to help me out with the pronunciations of these names. He'll get some play. He's really highly rated, and I think Maryland's going to surprise. I talked about this earlier in the show. I think Maryland's really going to surprise this year. Again, they're not going to compete, I don't think, to play in the Big Ten championship game, but I think they'll be very competitive in a Big Ten that they don't even belong playing in, right? Again, I'm going to back up to my whole realignment conversation. Maryland Rutgers ought not be playing in the Big Ten. The NCAA conferences need to look at a map once in a while. They're ruining. Anthony likes Spencer Rattler. I like Spencer Rattler a lot. He seemed to be maturing. He played much better as the year went on last year, so I wouldn't say you're out of your mind there, Anthony. I can tell you that right now. What's the W for? That's the Washington football team. I can't see what the bottom half of your avatar is there. Is that the W from the Washington football team, Anthony? Tell me who your college team is. Carlos is on Middle Tennessee. I know Rick Sherlock is a Georgia fan, one of our other top viewers. Thank you, Rick, for supporting the team. Mickey is a Washington and Washington State fan. And I know that Dave Guyette, if he's still with us, is a Syracuse fan. So we got a couple of really bad teams and some really good teams in there. Listen, North Carolina is going to have a tremendous offense this year. They may be overranked, and I do think they're overranked. Washington and the Oregon Ducks. Wow, that's quite a combination. Miami Hurricanes here, guys, and if you haven't heard me explain it why, it's because my stepson did his undergrad there. He's at Chapel Hill now, doing his graduate studies, but we became Hurricane fans, and they break our heart every year. They start out great and hit a wall. This could be the year, though. You never know. De'Aaron King's, I think he'll be celebrating his 30th birthday sometime this season as well. I kid, because we love him. So anyway, Shane Rattler's a great player. By the way, Anthony, if you haven't watched, and I'll say, I've said this on my shows a lot. There's a show called QB1 on Netflix, and it follows these highly ranked high school seniors. And some have already committed to where they're going to go. Some are trying to decide where they're going to go. But there's been some really good stories. Shane Rattler had an interesting story. In fact, he didn't even finish the season. He didn't finish his high school senior season. We don't know why. It's a big mystery, but it's a great show. It's a great show on Netflix. Don't know if they're going to have another new season. They didn't have a season last year, obviously, because of COVID. But I think there's 3 seasons, and you'll recognize a lot of the quarterbacks. Jake Fromm was on there from Georgia. Josh Fields was featured. Rattler was featured, and you may recognize some of the other names in throughout these 3 seasons. It's a really fun show. All right, guys, let's jump into this week's games. And Let's start out. I'm going to go through some of the top 25 games. Whoops. Just lost my little my note here. Gotta get back to the top of my notes. I finished writing some notes, and all I keep doing is I'll get there. I promise you. Bear with me. I'm going to look at some top 25 games. We'll look at some of the best of the rest. I'll go through the schedule quick. You got a game you want to talk about? I'll give you a pick. We're going to start with Arizona State at Southern Utah. Thursday. Lots of games, by the way. Thursday, there's got to be 20 football games. It's got to be because there's no NFL games this week. But the NFL's or the college is really spread out this opening weekend. I think there's games right through till Monday. I know Notre Dame and or maybe Sunday night. We'll see when we get to the schedule itself. We'll come across it. Thursday night, though, there's 20 games at least. Let's start with Arizona State at Southern Utah. Look, this is Arizona State going to win this game. Huge. Not much to say here. I love Herm Edwards. I really thought they were going to take a big step forward this year, and I think the stuff surrounding that program is going to sink them. Utah, Weber State, big win for Utah. I told you, Louisiana Tech and Texas. This is the 21st and 23 teams. I shouldn't even throw the rankings out there. Yeah, there's one game I know Wednesday. And even during the regular season, they play Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It is crazy. This week, I get it. You know, they want to spread out their opening weekend. They don't have the NFL to compete with on Thursday night, so they play 20 games on Thursday. I'm off Friday. I'll watch a lot of games. Texas and Louisiana Tech. I like the hire of Steve Scarsazian at Texas. But I got to tell you what, Louisiana State's got a really good team. Texas has got a new quarterback in Hudson Card. And this Louisiana Tech's got a really good defense, especially in the secondary. And I got a feeling this game's going to be really, really close. And I'm going to pick Louisiana Tech to upset Texas here in Steve Scarsazian's Boise State versus UCF. We'll get to that game for sure. Jake Fromm just got cut by the Bills. Was a good college quarterback. Never could quite get Georgia over the hump. But so there's upset number one. Louisiana, over Texas. Washington and Montana. Mickey and Anthony, your Washington Huskies will roll this week easily, obviously. Penn State and Wisconsin. Very interesting game. Two teams had very down years last year. Brutal stretches. Penn State started out 0-5. Wisconsin, I think, finished 500. Which team's going to come back? I'm not a big believer in Penn State, as I told Carlos earlier. And I really think that Wisconsin's going to have the upper hand here. And I think Jalen Berger, the running back, is going to have some big plays in what will probably be a breakout year for him. And if a quarterback is not going to win, watch out for Jalen Berger in the Heisman conversation. Since you brought up, let's go to the game. Since you guys are bringing these up, and then we'll skip them later, since these are the games you want to talk about. Boise State versus UCF. Nice matchup for week one. I really like the hire of Gus Malzahn at UCF, and I think he keeps the momentum going in that program. As I said, they're throwing a bunch of money at facilities and stadiums, and they're going to be a top-notch. One of these Power 5 leagues is going to come looking to bring them in soon. And I like them to win this game against Boise State, although Boise State's a really good team as well. LSU versus UCLA. This is the other team that I like. I believe LSU is like a 4-point favorite in this game. And I'm going to tell you, like I said with Illinois getting points at home last week, I think UCLA wins this game outright against LSU. Not a big fan of LSU. I don't think they can find that lightning in a bottle that they had 2 years ago. Penn State beats Wisconsin, then they'll fight for first place. We'll see. That Big Ten's loaded, though. I think there's some really good teams. You got some teams taking a step back. Northwestern's going to take a step back. I didn't talk about them when we were talking about the sorry, guys. I didn't talk about Northwestern really when we were talking about the Big Ten, but they lost a lot of contributors on both sides of the football. They got a great coach in Pat Fitzgerald, but they're going to struggle a bit. But it's going to be a great league. Actually, change your banner, Keith. I don't have Billy Pulver here to tell me. Here we go. Week 1, this week's games. Here we go. All right, you guys throw games at me if I haven't talked about them yet. I got to back up and find out where I was now. We talked about that one. Another great game for week 1. Iowa hosting Indiana. We're going to find out a lot about Indiana this week, Carlos. I like Iowa to win that division. And I think Indiana, for the first time in 50 years, are ranked in the top 25. But Iowa had a great defense last year. Only give up 16 points a game. I like Michael Penix, the Indiana quarterback who's back from injury. Tore his ACL last November, which was really sad to see. He was having a great season. The team was having a great season. And the Indiana defense is really good. This will probably be a low-scoring affair. And as I say that, it'll probably be like 50-45. See, Anthony got here. Biggest game. Well, I'll talk about this one, Anthony, because as I said, I'm a Hurricane fan. This game's being played in Atlanta, which may or may not give Alabama an advantage. I don't know. Both teams, I think, travel okay. I don't know if Miami travels that well anymore or not. I don't know. Alabama will. But if you're going to, they're getting 17 points in this game, Miami. There's a good chance I may take the points. I don't know if they'll win. But as I said earlier, and I don't know if you're here then, Anthony, or not, but Alabama's reloading. They've lost a lot of players, and most teams it would take a couple of years to rebuild what they had going. And I don't doubt that they will. Alabama's probably going to be in the playoff conversation the entire year. But having to replace your quarterback, your top running back, your 2 top wide receivers, your top 2 offensive linemen, your top 3 defensive players, it may take a little while to gel. And if you're going to beat them, week 1's where you can do it. And I'm not going to call an upset here. I will say Miami stays within the 17 points. And maybe throws a scare in Alabama. And who knows, maybe next week I'll be sitting here saying, I told you they're going to beat them. We talked about UCLA and LSU. Well, I was going to leave this to the end, and I know Rick wants to talk about this game. Clemson and Georgia. It does set the stage for both the ACC and the SEC. This is a great marquee game to start the season. I think it's on at 8 o'clock on ABC. I can't wait to watch it. I've got some friends coming over. We're going to be grilling. We're going to be maybe having some adult beverages, maybe too many. And we'll watch Alabama at 3:30, and we'll watch as much of this game, Clemson and Georgia as we can. This is a great, great matchup of 2 great coaches in Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney. Love Dabo Swinney. I got to tell you, I just love Dabo Swinney. Georgia, I think 2 great quarterbacks. DJ showed, again, DJU is what I'm going to have to call him from Clemson because I'll never be able to say his last name. Came off the bench when Lawrence was out last year for a game and a half and played great football. JT Daniels stepped up big time for Georgia at the end of the season. This is a great matchup for week 1. And as long as one team doesn't get blown out, you can lose this game and it does not hurt you in the playoff conversation even a little bit. It's an interconference game. So the only way it hurts you is if you get blown out. Now, the winner has a little bit of a advantage. Carlos is really predicting it to be a high-scoring game, 56-45. One of my problems, I love college football, but I don't like the fact nobody plays defense. A few teams do. And you'll hear me rant sometimes on my Sunday show, and I'm going through the scores, and I'll probably do it here as the season goes on. Somebody's got to step up and play some defense now and again. Either way, flip-flop it. Yeah, you're right. I think this game is a toss-up. It's on a neutral field. It's in Charlotte. I'm gonna take Clemson just because of Dabo Swinney. I like him a little bit better than Kirby Smart, but I can see them winning. Sorry, Rick. I know you love Georgia, and I know you're probably picking Georgia. To be honest with you, I could change my pick, and I will let you know Saturday if I do when I see the line, because it may be a game that I bet. I don't know. The cigar box starts. Those of you who have heard me talk about the cigar box. Georgia's defense will not allow that many points. Don't know. Rick, you know what? Good defenses allow 40 points now. Oh, man, it's so hard to, defense. It's so hard for defenses to keep teams out of the end zone today because of the rules. It's very hard. I agree. They got a really good defense. Do I think they're going to give up 50 points? Probably not. I think that's probably outrageous. But I do see this. I can see the winner of this game scoring 40, 38. What'd you say? Did you say AAC? No, you said ACC. What are you talking about? Carlos, what are you talking about? Oh, what UHE defense? Uh-oh, Rick. Rick, you might have a new sparring partner now on one of my shows. Carlos and Rick, you guys can battle it out there a little bit. Let's see what Carl's got to say here. These defenses will probably score 14. Well, that's a good point. Not a bad point there. It's possible that of those 50 points, 14 come from defense. Good point. Florida and Florida Atlantic, I don't think Florida Atlantic is in a position to give Florida any kind of run here. Florida beats up on bad teams pretty good. That's Mullen's MO. We talked about Wisconsin. Oregon, Fresno State. Interesting game here. Fresno State, I think, has got a really good offense, a really good quarterback in Jake Haener. But I don't think they've got enough against probably a pretty good Oregon team. We're going to see. Again, that Pac-12, Pac-12 was really beat up by the COVID last year. They started late. They had a lot of games canceled. I have not done BYU Arizona yet. I'm going to have to take BYU here. Although, let me back up. Arizona's got a new head coach this year. The former quarterback coach of my New England Patriots. And just because of that, I'm going to take Arizona. BYU's really good, though. But I think, as I said earlier, I think they take a step back this year. They had a lot of trouble scheduling. They didn't play a very representative schedule last year. They had to schedule Coastal Carolina on the fly. It was a great game, but Florida Atlantic. Who is the coach of Florida Atlantic? Good question. Let's see. I think I just read this the other day. Bear with me, Carlos, while I pull this baby up. Who is the coach there today? It might be Willie Taggart. Right, Willie Taggart. Formerly of Oregon, formerly of Florida State. What else we got going on here? You guys I can't keep up with your comments tonight. This show might have to go an hour and a half every Wednesday from the looks of it. I love both Washington. Tell them to show up the next gathering, Carlos, for some humble pie. Carlos. I'm a diabetic and don't eat pie. Well, we drink more beer than we eat pie, just an FYI, Carlos. You got to come up. Got to come up. So anyway, Willie Taggart, coach at FAU now. I did know that. All right, what else we got? I lost my schedule. There we go. Fresno State. Let's get into, an interesting game. North Carolina, who I said is really ranked in the top 10 and probably overranked. I love Mac Brown. I love what he's doing there. Great recruiting classes. I think the Heisman Trophy winner and Sam Howell. He lost some really good running backs in Williams and the kid the Jets took in the 4th round, Michael Carter. But include as well as De'Ami Brown and Daz Newsome as well, by the way. That's a lot of firepower to be gone. And Virginia Tech, tough place to go play. I think North Carolina wins a squeaker here, but don't rule out the North Carolina upset in this one. What else you got going on here? That program keeps buying coaches like people buy fries. Wasn't it? I feel like it was Howard Schnellenberger who really got that program on the map. I think it might have been his last stop as an NCAA coach, but I think he's the one who really kind of got the program up and around. I'm not telling you they were winning major bowl games, but interesting game. As I said earlier, Notre Dame, I think, again, overranked in the top 10 because they've got a lot to replace, man. They lost their whole offensive line. Although I think there's one guy left. And they're starting quarterback. But the Seminoles haven't been able to find a quarterback for a long, long time either. And Milton might be the guy. He hasn't played in 3 years. So we'll see what happens. They haven't had a good quarterback in I can't remember how long. But this could be I wouldn't rule Florida State out here. I do think Notre Dame will win, probably by 10 maybe, but I think Florida State could give them a run. Cincinnati, Miami of Ohio. I love Cincinnati this year. I really do. They bring back a lot of guys. Their coach, and Fickle's one of the best coaches in the country. This may be his last season in Cincinnati. And I would love to see this team sneak into the playoffs somehow. Iowa State, another team I love. I have them winning, Carlos, over your Oklahoma State team and the SEC. Carlos, tell me, I want to know your favorite team in college football while I'm doing it. They're going to play Northern Iowa. They're going to win this game for fun. Iowa State's going to be really good. Texas A&M at Kent State, nothing to say there. You got Georgia and Clemson we talked about. Ohio State at Minnesota, Thursday night, 8 o'clock. Be careful, Ohio State. Minnesota's got, again, one of the better coaches in the country. Don't hear a lot about in PJ Flesch. Down year last year. Defense was horrible. They're going to start to make some inroads this year. But I think you're going to find out quickly whether C.J. Stroud is the right choice there. And if the Gopher defense can improve a little bit, maybe they throw a scare in Ohio State at home to open the season. But if they play like defense like they played it last year, they will not. Carlos, you're killing me. Ian Book was a really good college quarterback. I don't care what you say. We're still waiting for his team, Rick. I don't know. We're going to say Rutgers. You say Rutgers. I'm going to say Columbia or Fordham. Just kidding, Carlos. Who is it? How about Oklahoma at Tulane? Oklahoma's going to score about 60. We already talked about Alabama and Miami. Boise State. What we got here? Hang on one second, guys. I'm waiting on a text from a very important person. Not that you guys are not important. You're all very important to me. No, don't know. We talked about Boise State, UCF. I like it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I do like UCF, as I said before. I just like Gus Malzahn. I think this is a great fit for him. Great fit. Stanford at Kansas State. Kind of an interesting game. Two teams that could go either way. Kansas State got off to a great start last year, but their offense never recovered once Skylar Thompson went down with an injury. Stanford's been down for a bit. Since they lost Sam Mills left the program. And David Shaw is one of the great quarterbacks, one of the great coaches in the game. And I think that it's going to be a really good game, but I think Kansas State will win this game. Again, on a neutral site, Texas. Games, I think, in Jerry Jones Stadium. West Virginia at Maryland. Pretty good matchup Saturday afternoon. But again, West Virginia, they never seem to get over the hump. I think Maryland's much improved this year. Carlos talked about baby Tua. I like Maryland to win this game in an upset. Let's see. Carlos, University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Rocky Top. That's your team. I got some people that work for me, Carlos, that are in Tennessee. I got a bunch of Rocky Toppers that work for me. They're rough. They want their team to do better. Carlos will be a Rutgers fan if he can coach him. You think he's been terrible since 2001. They have players that come out, but no championship for a long time. You take key. I don't know why I'm missing that one, Carlos. I'm usually good with the acronyms. My sleeper team in the Pac-12, Anthony. Well, I picked UCLA to win that league, so I think that's a sleeper. I think Chip Kelly's got that team heading in the right direction. They played really well last year. They were 3-4, and I think the 4 games they lost were by like a combined 16 points or something. And I just think they're ready to make some noise out there in the Pac-12. And I think they're going to surprise and outlast USC in the South and beat Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. Oh, gotcha. Thank you, Carlos. I'm usually very good at my acronyms, but I don't remember that one being used. I'm going to run that by my Rocky Toppers tomorrow in a meeting. Texas Tech at Houston. Probably be a fun game. Neither team's going to be all that strong, I don't think, this year. Houston will probably win that game. Nevada at California. Nevada's really, really good. Sneaky good. I like California. Another sleeper I like in the Pac-12, by the way, Anthony. I think they will. I don't think they're going to win that Northern Division, but I think they're going to have a much better team this year. And then we got Louisville. Let's see, Nevada, Arkansas. Where was I? Louisville, Ole Miss. I like Ole Miss in this game. And this game could be 60-55. But I just love what help me, Keith. Boy, my Prevagen is wearing off by 8:00 at night. I just like what oh my God, Lane Kiffin. Jesus, Lane Kiffin is doing at Ole Miss. If he ever puts a representative defense on the field, he'll be amazing. Did a great job at Florida Atlantic, right, Carlos? So anyway, I like Ole Miss to win this game. And maybe it'll be a 60-50 game. What else we got? Any other? Don't care about that game. Middle Tennessee State. Let's talk about that Middle Tennessee game. They're playing Monmouth. Can they beat Monmouth, Carlos? Let's see what else we got. Did I miss anybody you guys want to talk about? Throw it out there. Either games this weekend, Heisman Trophy candidates. I knew we'd disagree on Kiffin. Carlos, you know what? I kid with Carlos a lot, but Carlos makes some of these shows go with his comments, and I love bantering back and forth with him. I really appreciate your support, Carlos, by the way. I'm going through the schedule to see if I missed anything that I really care to talk about. Army's got Georgia State. I'd like to see Army get off to a nice start there. That'd be fun for the armed forces. You got Air Force playing Lafayette. They should win that game probably. Who's the Cuse got, Dave Guyette? Where are you? Where's Syracuse? There they are. Syracuse at Ohio, who we talked about earlier. I think Syracuse loses this game. I like Dino Babers. He's a really good coach. But Syracuse just is not recruiting the way they did for a bit. He started to turn this around. This program was doing pretty good in the 80s, early 90s, under Coach McPherson first. And then Paul, I was going to say Tagliabue. We know that's not right. Paul, I'm sure somebody will give me his name too. Let's see. Back to Kiffin. I figured that's why you didn't like him, Carlos. It was kind of in my back of my mind was the Tennessee thing. A lot of guys don't like him for that reason. Anyway, I don't see Syracuse having a very good year this year. Dino Babers a great coach. And he's just in a bad situation at Syracuse. They have not been able to. Paul Pasqualani, I think that was the coach who came after Coach Mack. They had some really good teams, but they were not able to sustain that. Bad coaching hires. And they just have not been able to. And going to the ACC, awful move for Syracuse. Syracuse. Again, they went there for basketball, but for the football team, nothing could have been worse for Syracuse. The football team be better in a league like the AAC. It's a shame. Where's BC? BC's another team I like as a sleeper this year in the ACC. Where are they playing this week? I don't see them. Well, we'll probably cover them in the scoreboard this weekend. A couple fun games Sunday and Monday nights, though, without any NFL football. You got Notre Dame at Florida State on Sunday, and you've got Louisville and Ole Miss Monday night. Be a lot of fun. Do I smell an upset with Maryland and West Virginia? I do smell an upset. I love Maryland, Anthony. I think Maryland's going to be a sleeper in that Big Ten. I don't think they're going to make it to the championship game, but I think they're going to scare a lot of teams. I think they're going to be much improved. And I think the baby Tua, because I can't say his last name either, I think the baby Tua is going to have a remarkable season. He had some really good games last year for Maryland in a small sample size. And I expect him and that team to make major strides this year. Well, guys, we've gone about an hour and a half. I started a little bit late. I apologize for being late today. I had a work call that came up like 2 minutes before I was going to start the show. But we talked about a lot of stuff today. I think there's college football is loaded with great stories. Anthony's liking that Maryland pick, I guess. College football is loaded with a lot of great stories, good and bad. We're going to see how this whole NIL thing plays out. We're going to hear a lot more about realignment. What I really want to talk about are the games. I do want to talk about the expanded playoff. Somebody needs to look at, I don't want to say my idea, because when I brought up the idea of the 16-team playoff last year in a vlog, I had a guy on YouTube want to sue me. He was going to take me to court because I violated his copyright infringement. This was his idea. He wrote a whole book about it 20 years ago. And apparently I'm the only guy who's ever talked about this 16-team playoff except for him. Only hear it talked about every week on some talking head show, right? Gosh, guys. Wouldn't you like to see a 16-team playoff, though? Again, I think there's 12 1AA leagues. One winner from each league. You can take your regular season winner. You can have a tournament or a conference title game. I don't care. And then 4 wild cards. Somebody said, I'll make the regular season meaningless. How? Every game matters. You're not taking 6 teams from the SEC. Those power conferences are going to be lucky to get 2. And if I'm going to watch somebody get blown out in the first round, I'd just soon see Coastal Carolina have a chance to, play David to Alabama's Goliath rather than watch Notre Dame get blown out. Well, Louisiana, I don't think Louisiana does play Texas and Mickey, and I pick Louisiana to beat. I don't think it's Louisiana Lafayette, but I think it's just Louisiana. But I like Louisiana to beat Texas. One of my upset picks this week. So the best bet I'll give you of the week, UCLA over LSU, 4 points at home. That's your best bet. I think that's it for tonight, guys. We're going to have lots to talk about, as I said, the playoff, the coaches, the realignment, most of all the football. We got some great races coming up. You're right, Carlos. Texas is not that good. They got a good coach, and they're heading the right direction. I like Steve Sarkisian assuming he's got his act together. He's a great coach, but not this year. Guys, Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk, College Football Huddle. We'll be back next week, Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll recap these games, or the big ones anyway, and we'll look at the next week's stories and the schedule. Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk, Northeast Streaming Sports. You guys have a great weekend, and we will see you. I'll see you Friday with Jim Jeffcoat.
You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Engel, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.